Mercy on the track, boy.
You the one, and the two, and the three, four. Let me down when I found everything slow. Ain't nobody else around you, elite though. Put the seed in the ground to help me grow. On me, you deserve everything. I be thinking.
All right, so in terms of our main topic, I already teased it at the start of this episode, and like I said, it's all about insecurities. And if you've been listening to us for a while now, I don't think you're accustomed to hearing us get that personal. Like, I don't think we really talk about ourselves too much. We kind of keep it a bit broad. Yeah. But again, in the vein of digging deep, we figured we would get a bit more personal this episode, and, you know, maybe hopefully throughout the season. So with that said, we're going to open up talking about our personal insecurities. And I want you, Dolapo, to kick us off.
Of course you want that. I know you want that. I'm like, why did Faye rush to start talking? I'm like, no. I wanted to set this up. Like, I'm like, let me talk first. Faye, you go. No, I mean, I think we're all human beings, right? Everyone has insecurities. No matter how big, no matter how small. We all deal with different things that we look in the mirror and we feel like maybe it's just not enough, or we're not as fond of, or like in love with, or whatever. And insecurities come in different shapes and sizes and different facets, right? Like, you can have like insecurities about how you look physically. You can have insecurities about like social status and stuff like that. So yeah, I have all those insecurities. How I look, I think maybe insecurity sometimes is like fitness levels. I'm like, damn, I'm not buff right now. But that's not a big insecurity at the moment. I feel like that's something that like goes up and goes down, right? Like, there are times where I'm like, oh my god, I'm so fat, I need to go to the gym, I need to at the moment I'm feeling a little fat, but I'm not super insecure about it. Like, nah, for real, I'm feeling like a little like,
yeah, but you see, damn, you're not insecure about it. You're just
but I am
taking note of it.
No, but I am insecure about it. But also, like, I think one of my coping mechanisms is to not make myself think it's that big of a deal. So I'm also like, as much as I'm insecure about it, I'm also going to be like, but it's not that bad. Because who's going to tell me it's not that bad? I have to tell myself. So I'm like, while acknowledging my insecurity, I'm also quickly trying to like make it not a big thing so that I can cope. A social insecurity I have is just not fitting in. Like, that's a pretty big insecurity for me. I feel like I don't fit in with what people expect. And I hate having to react a certain way. And it's like one of my biggest ones, right, I would say, is getting like excited. I'm not a very excitable person. Okay. But people expect you, like, if something big or good happens, people expect you to be hype.
You know what, Delafo? I 1,000% will relate to this, but continue.
I'm really bad at that. It makes me insecure. Yeah. Most recently, because people around me notice it. And then when people notice it and they call you out on it, it makes you more insecure, because now I'm like thinking about my reaction. I'm like, I don't want to be the weird person that's like not acting the way everyone else is acting.
You're
I'm
like, gassed over things.
Yeah, like, I'm not the person that's just gonna be hype and excited. Like, that's just not my personality, and it's hard for me to like break out of that little shell I have to be like 100% free and let my emotions show. Like, I'm just not that person. But I'm very insecure about that because people don't know how to deal with that.
You know, that's hilarious, because I 100% relate to it. 1,000%, like I said earlier, relate to it. But it does not make me insecure whatsoever. Like, I am not much of an excitable person. Like, I'm pretty even keel, to the point where my mom is like, why are you so strange? Like, something good happened. Why aren't you happy? But then I always tell her that for me, the reason I lean towards that when it's on the good side is because when it's on the bad side, I also don't have like the most disastrous lows.
Of course, that's me. I'm like, even kill. I'm like, yo, let's just keep it like the best that happened. Oh, that's awesome. But in my mind, I'm already thinking about like, okay, like, let's not be too excited. Like, it's good.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Like, if something bad happens, I'm like, oh, that sucks. But like, we don't have to like be depressed. Like, it's okay. Like, well, let's figure it out.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like, so for me, it's not like I have like an affect, right? So I'm not like so like even keel to the point where I don't have any variance in my like outward emotion. But with the bigger things, I think that's where it's like very clear, like, okay, Faye, why aren't you super excited? You just got this new job. Or why aren't you so sad this bad thing happened to you? I'm just kind of like in the middle. Okay, so those are your insecurities.
I mean, I have more. I have tons of insecurities, but those are the two I can think of right off the top in terms of like physical appearances, in terms of like social status. I can go like there's a million insecurities if you want to dig deeper, but let's let Faye share some of her insecurities, or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
The funny thing is, I think I'm on the opposite spectrum of you, where I won't say I have like a laundry list of insecurities. Okay. I'm actually pretty secure overall, but I have one big insecurity that affects so many aspects of my life. And as I'm saying that, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe I'm going to share it, because since the beginning of this podcast, even when I was thinking about doing my own, I was like, I'll probably talk about this on my podcast one day, but we're 6 seasons in and I've never talked about this.
It's a safe space.
Yeah. You have to make it very safe.
It is very safe. You're allowed to share your insecurities. We're not here to judge you. Yes. And we're talking about it because we all have them.
Okay. So my insecurity is one that I can't change. And it is the fact that I'm visually impaired, which means the way I contextualize it for most people is that I can't drive. And that kind of explains it well enough that people, okay, she can't see well enough that she can't drive, because whenever I'm wearing my glasses or things like that, people don't really understand. And I think the reason it's an insecurity for me is because, like I said, it ripples out into different aspects of my life, and also because I'm pretty secure elsewhere, that it's like I put more energy into this one thing than I think it really deserves, because from the outside looking in, I don't think anybody could really ever tell that it makes me insecure. They're just like, it is part of fate. It is what it is. Most people in my life just know it. Like, I don't really have to discuss it. It's just, it's part of me. But they don't realize that it's on my mental. Like, I'm thinking about it probably 80% of my day.
Wow. I would never think that. Because like you said, it is something that you said, I know, people know. Yeah. But I would actually think like, oh, you're pretty secure in like the way that you're able to deal with it. Because I think for me, from the outside looking in, I'm like, I can imagine how that would be a really big insecurity, but it doesn't appear to be a big insecurity for you, because I'm like, that, like you said, it affects a lot. And you have to think about it with a lot of things that you want to do or you're doing. Like, it's, you can't forget about it. You can't be like, oh, I forgot. Like, it's literally there because it's how you do everything, how you move.
And the reason I front loaded my statement about what I'm insecure about with I can't change it is because I feel like most insecurities, people are so insecure about it because they feel like, well, I could change it. Like, I could become more fit, or I could become more excitable. You know what I mean? Or I could appear to be more, you know what I mean? Whereas mine, it's like, it's this insecurity, and most people dismiss something that you can't change. They're like, how can you be insecure? Just let it go. Like, you can't do anything about it. Yeah. I've heard that so many times. Like, you can't do anything about it, so why be insecure about it? Whereas other things, it's like, oh, I completely get why you're insecure. Let's like work on that together. And because people don't have anything to work on with me, they can't really, they don't know what to say, but just don't be insecure.
Yeah, no, I definitely get it. And I do think that there is something to the insecurities you can change and the ones you can't. I think they're both just as bad, because I'm trying to think of which one is worse. I'm like, I could see how people that are really insecure about their bodies, for example, like how big their butt is, or their hip, the placement, or this or that. Those people, they're really insecure about it to the point that they do something about it, right? People, of course, they go through like the working out, they're doing this, somehow gets a surgery. And not to say that everyone that does surgery is insecure about it, right? But a lot of them, I would assume, are probably somewhat insecure. But they always go back. Like, it's not a fix, because that insecurity is...
For sure.
It appears to be something you can change, but it's deeper. You know what I mean? Like, it's deeper than what you can actually change. It's just how you feel about how you look.
Exactly.
And
that's
those
true.
things you change are not going to ultimately change it.
Because a lot of times with like a physical insecurity, for instance, like it might be the body at the surface. Exactly. But underneath that, there's more to it. It's like feeling not conventionally attractive enough, right? So even if you lose the weight, it's like, I'm going to find something else, like my boobs are too saggy or whatever it is. Like, so I do see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and even moving up with the physical stuff, like people that are like insecure about how much money they make, let's say. If you're insecure about that, usually what most people try to do about the insecurities is they try to, what's the word I'm looking, overcompensate. Yeah. Right? You try to overcompensate for insecurities so no one knows that that's an insecurity and you look mad normal and you even look better than just like less than how you actually feel. And
to me right
people that
now.
have, like, don't have money or like feel like they don't have money, right? Because insecurity is all perspective. They'll overspend. They'll want to let you know they have it. This and
then
that.
It keeps them at the same spot.
Exactly. It like works against their actual insecurity, and it doesn't change what the problem is, which is you ultimately don't feel like you're making enough. And it's probably not even how much money you're making.
I was gonna
It's
say
how much
that.
you're making in comparison to other people. Yeah. And you can make more, but other people can make more too.
But then that becomes a moving goalpost because, like, let's say you do make more money, then you just change the people you're comparing yourself again. And it just keeps
and that's literally
that's
the biggest problem with insecurities a lot of times is when it starts becoming a comparison, right? Then, like you said, it's a moving goalpost. Like, literally, you can compare yourself to someone. There's always someone better at something. Like, unless you're Serena Williams at tennis. Yeah. And even Serena Williams, I'm sure sometimes
she has that one girl like Naomi when she beats her. She's probably like, damn, she's like, Naomi.
Yo, even right now, she might be going through it. Like, am I still the best in the world? Like, have I fallen off? Like, you still deal with it at some point.
Right.
But generally, you're going to be worse than someone at something. And if you choose to be insecure about it, or if you are, you're not going to be able to fix it by overcompensating. You're going to have to dig deeper, really, to try to get to the root cause and try to make yourself like comfortable. Trying to, I don't know, maybe comfortable is not the word, but like you have to deal with it head on. Right. But it's not by the surface level thing. Yeah.
I don't remember how you worded it, but what you said in terms of doing so much to mask your insecurity that like you're trying to make sure that you're secure, almost like you're trying to force yourself false sense of security and making others around you think you're so secure. I definitely relate to that, where it's like I know it's something that I'm insecure about, and I would love to talk more about how it makes me insecure, but because I don't want the perception of me to be of a certain way, then I completely, rather than giving nuggets, I just shut down from even conversing about it or talking about it. And there's a wall there that I'm not even realizing I'm putting up. It like comes up subconsciously. At least that's how my like overcompensation manifests itself. Yeah. Okay, so with your laundry list, do you feel like one kind of, is it those two that you already mentioned that takes up most of your mental space, or do they not even take up that much of your mental space?
I think that for me, honestly, it depends, right? Literally from day to day, it changes. Like I said about like feeling like I'm fat or unfit, that changes. Like literally at the moment, I could feel like, I haven't gone to the gym in 2 weeks. I'm feeling kind of fat. Like, I'm a little insecure. I'm like, yesterday I'm trying to go out. I put on a shirt. I'm like, this shirt's a little bit tight. Like, I don't know if I want to wear this. Like, if I go out, I don't have to think about my stomach. Like, I want to be able to just be free. So it affects me in that way, right? But it's not an everyday thing. Because there's some days I'll put a shirt on and I'll be like, I'm that. Like, I don't even think about, what am I going to look like? Or is someone going to look at me wearing this and be like, I can see you, or this, I can see you. Like, I'm not going to think about that because I'm not even worried. So it just really depends.
I see that. Well, for me, I guess that's where it differs. Like, there's not a day that goes by. But I don't always think about it in the frame of an insecurity. You get what I mean? Like, I'm not always thinking about this thing is part of me and I'm insecure about it. But the insecurity I do have is part of my daily life, whether it's like work or relationships or school or my family or like friends, whatever it is. Like most people, I would even say my friends probably don't realize like what about our interactions makes me insecure about it, because all my friends know, right? And so none of them make me feel bad about it,
right? They try to make you feel comfortable.
If anything, they make me feel so comfortable with it. But there's certain things that they don't even realize I'm clocking as that just made my insecurity flare up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I might not always be consciously thinking about it as this insecurity I have, but it's always in my brain and could flare up as an insecurity at any point in time.
Yeah.
But depending on who I'm interacting with.
Yeah, no, and I definitely get that, because I think for me, the more I think about it, my insecurity of fitting in is, I wouldn't say I deal with it every single day, but when I have to deal with people that are not like my close friends and family, and even with them, I deal with it sometimes. Like if like it matters, like if I go to work, for example, I'm just not the person that's like at work socializing. Like you always think that I'm like a social butterfly because
you come off
around
like that.
Exactly right around the people that I'm cool with, I'm free. But if I'm not like. It takes me a while to get there. So before I get there, like I'm very insecure around people because I'm like, what are you thinking about me? And what am I thinking about you? And like, what am I doing? So I kind of hold back because I don't want to be judged almost. So it makes a huge difference. Like at work and like social settings with people that I'm not comfortable with, that I don't know, it's really hard for me to break into it because I'm just like in my head thinking about how everything is going. So I'm holding back so that nothing goes crazy.
Well put. But I think a lot of our insecurities out there are tied to a fear of ours, right? So for you, what you just mentioned and what I gained from what you kind of just talked about is the fact that one of your fears is being judged and judged inaccurately.
Yes, harshly.
Right? And so then your insecurities are spawned from that. So whether it is that physical insecurity of yours or the social insecurity of yours, it kind of boils down to
how people view you, how people look at you and then treat you off of that, right? Because how people view you, people will say, oh, it doesn't matter. This, like, to me, I can't honestly be like, oh, it doesn't, like, it matters because how people view you actually affects, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone, but it affects how, not just how I view myself, but how I interact with them, right? Like, you can see if you're talking to someone and the person thinks you're stupid, it's going to affect how you talk. Because it's like, I can't share you already think I'm stupid. So now I'm probably going to hold back because I don't want to say something that's going to make you think I'm even more stupid. Like,
and for me, I feel like it's even more nuanced where I think pretty much all insecurities you can put the umbrella of it stems from how people see you.
Of course.
But then you can get even more granular with, again, your case being judgment and being judged unfairly. Mine, I would say, is like weakness and being seen as weaker or less independent. Because that is something I like hold very valuable. Like strength is something I hold very valuable. So when I feel like someone's perception of me is less than that, that makes me go crazy. Whereas maybe it's somebody who has an insecurity about money, like you mentioned. They don't want to be seen as not affluent or not being able to take care of themselves or up to par with the people that's their like whole thing about it.
No, I agree for sure. It definitely comes from your fears. It definitely comes from your background. It definitely comes from your experiences. Like going back to the people that have the money thing, I think a lot of people that grew up without money or feeling like they grew up without money, a lot of them have the insecurity of like wanting to have money, wanting to never be back there, and like it's like you said, it's a fear really. It's a fear of not wanting to be in a specific situation. For me, my fear I think is being judged, being like the laughing stock, being ostracized, being like the person. Like I always kind of think of my life, I'm like, I never feel like I've been the person that has been like made fun of in the room. You know, like in school, there's like a couple kids that like everyone picks
always
on.
The butt of the joke.
I feel like I've never been that person. Really? But it's also because I make sure not to be that person, right? Like in high school, I didn't really talk to, like literally people from high school, if they heard this podcast, they'd be like,
you had a podcast?
You can talk. Like people literally thought I was almost mute because I just wouldn't talk to them. So I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you. If I don't talk to you, you cannot say anything about me. Right. You literally can't form a negative opinion. Now, of course, I'm breaking out of that a little bit or a lot more, but it stemmed from that fear of not wanting to be judged, not wanting to be ostracized, and it affects me that much. I think
that's why for you have like a laundry list, like you said, of insecurities, and they rotate, and depending on where you are in life, that's the one that's presenting themselves. Whereas for me, I don't really have that fear of being judged. Maybe one, because there was a point in elementary school, for instance, where I was the kid that was you've been through it. I've been through it, and it's not that big of a deal. And I just don't care that much about being judged. And I also think, again, a huge part of it is because I have this other insecurity that I garner as like a much bigger part of my life. So it's like you don't even have time. That it's like I don't have time to care. Like if you think I'm ugly, if you think I'm weird, if you think I'm not funny or not smart, that's your business. Exactly. And I also think it's partially because I've done a lot of, I don't know, I've had a lot of growth over the years, and I've worked on being confident with those parts of me, or maybe not even work. I don't think I ever really consciously worked on it, but I had put myself in rooms and with people and in places that confirmed those sides of me, like made sure to make me feel like I am smart or beautiful or whatever.
Of course, it's important. And I think that's what I was going to ask you about. That is, how do you work on it, right? How do you get better or like deal with the insecurities better? And I think confidence is a huge part of it. Because ultimately, a lot of times it's, even though we use other people as references and other things, a lot of times, like, it's ultimately internal. It's ultimately how you view yourself, and it's your fear. So it's, you have to deal with that fear, but you also have to view yourself in a more positive light.
Right. And
then naturally it comes off, right? Because I also see people that try to overcompensate with confidence. Like, super confident people, a lot of times they're like not confident at all. Like, it's just a show so that you don't ever think that they're not confident. I definitely have like issues with confidence. Like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm just not that confident. Like, I'm just not the person that's going to walk into a room mad confident like that. Like, I'm always reserved because, like I said, I'm just making sure like everything is cool. Let me just find my level, and then maybe I'll get comfortable. But I don't think anyone ever accused me of like, yo, you're overconfident in general. Like,
and again, to kind of harp on the confidence thing, I think it's a matter of bolstering those sides of you that you are confident in. So like, for instance, like I mentioned, I do feel like I'm smart, for instance. So like, I make sure that I keep that up. Like, maybe I read more, listen to more podcasts, whatever, like, to make sure I always feel like my intelligence is sharp, right? Because there is something else that I might not be as confident in. So whatever it is for you. So if you're the girl out there who is really confident in her cooking skills, then cook a lot, share your food with people a lot, so that people are always reinforcing that side of you that you think is one of the better sides of you, right? And then hopefully that starts bleeding into, because like I mentioned with my bigger insecurity, because I'm confident elsewhere, although I do still have this insecurity, I don't always dwell in it, / I could kind of always find my way out of it, because I'm like, well, I'm great in so many other aspects, and this is just one part of me, and why be so insecure, you know? Like,
I mean, insecurities do a lot to hold us back. They usually don't propel us that far. Some people do thrive off of it. They can kind of make like, you know, make themselves do something crazy because, you know, you have the kid that's like, oh, I was so insecure about my weight, so I, you know, worked out, lost a bunch of weight, now I train people. Like, there are people that do that. The most important thing is to do it in a healthy way, honestly. Healthy way, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever, because I think a lot of us deal with insecurities in unhealthy ways, right? Like, a lot of people try to, you know, like we already talked about, overcompensating, try to distract from it, try to do something else, and just make sure it's a healthy thing that you're doing, right? Like, don't put yourself in a worse situation off of an insecurity, and then like it just gets worse. Honestly, it only gets worse unless you try to deal with it head on, and, you know, just really work on yourself.
I have one question. I don't know if maybe we want to wrap up, but I do have one question. Given that this is an Afrocentric podcast, I'm curious to know if that informs your insecurity in any way.
So let's say it does in a way, right? So let's say like my physical insecurities of like, oh, I feel like I'm fat. It informs it in the sense that it at different points makes it a bigger deal, but it also makes it not a big deal, right? Because we all know African culture, like, there's a lot more bluntness, right? So I remember like the first time I started to like not be skinny anymore when I went to college, like, I had family members be like, Tolakwo, you have gained weight, you're fat. Like, that was probably when it got introduced to me as an insecurity, right? Because I had never considered myself, like, when I was in college, I didn't think I was fat until somebody told me I was fat, and I was like, wait, I gained weight? Like, I did not even know. No, because I felt like myself. I felt normal. I looked in the mirror. I liked what I saw. Like, I never felt bad until people started telling me that, oh, you gained weight, you gained it. Then they put it into my head. And then people started asking, like, oh, what are you going to do to lose the weight? You know what I mean? Like, so they made that insecurity kind of appear. But at the same time, because I do come from a culture that's really blunt, it has also helped me kind of deal with that insecurity, because people keep telling me that I'm fat. After a while, I'm like, yeah, I'm just not listening to you anymore. Like, I understand you're going to say what you think, and I appreciate your opinion. I'm going to assume that it's coming from a place of love, but I'm not going to let it always affect me. Right? Like, sometimes it will. Sometimes, like, someone random, like, you see somebody you haven't seen for 2 years, and the first thing they want to tell you is like, oh my God, you're so fat. And we're like, yo, can you say hi? Can you say, how am I doing? Like, am I really that fat that you can't, like, leave it alone for 5 minutes? Like, you have that happen sometimes, and that might kind of get to you. But for the most part, because I have heard it and dealt with it, and I know that it's coming from a place, I assume that it's coming from a place of love, I'm able to kind of deal with that insecurity a little bit better. Good on
you. Because I feel like a lot of people, they don't have the approach of, I heard it so much, I'm now desensitized to it. It's more like I hear it so much, like it keeps becoming a bigger and bigger monster.
I mean,
in my
for
brain.
me, I'm like, if I don't get desensitized, then I'm not gonna love myself. Like, it's gonna be a really big issue.
Yeah.
And like I said,
and for a lot of people, it is a big issue.
And for me, like I said, it started off with, it was never an issue for me personally. Like, if I lived in a world where no one else exists, which obviously can't be possible, I would never think anything about how I appeared. You know what I mean? Because that's something that people introduced to me, that people brought to me. Like, another one, this is not really insecurity, but another thing about physicality or how I look. I remember when I found out I was short. I was like, what? I'm not short?
The fact that you found out you were short.
I was always regular heights growing up, so I assumed I was always regular heights until at some point in college, someone was like, oh, you're short. And I was like, huh? What do you mean I'm short? I'm mad regular heights.
By the way, people are getting taller now by surgery.
Oh, yeah?
Apparently, there's some surgery.
I have not,
to
but I
get
need to
people
look
taller.
into it because I'm trying to get to 5'10".
Stop
I'm not
it.
even greedy, just
Stop
5'10".
it.
Because, when people told me I was short, at first it was just like a joke. I'm like, nah, I'm not short. But then I started looking around and I'm like, oh, people are actually kind of tall out here. Like, I'm like, oh, all my friends are taller than me. But like, I never thought I was short. So now I have it in my head like, oh, I guess I'm not like that tall. But I would have never thought about it if somebody didn't come to me with that big mouth to tell me that, oh, yeah, shorts, go to the front. Like, what? I'm not short. I'm average, guys.
That's so
believe what you
funny.
believe. I'm average heights. Okay. Especially for Nigerians. Nigerians are not that tall.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a hard life. It's a hard life.
Yeah, no. I guess to answer my own question, since you didn't do the whole, how about you?
How about you? I forgot what the question was. Like, I feel like I'm just rambling.
How my, African roots affects me and my insecurity. I would say it does definitely inform my relationship with my insecurity, because like if you go online and see somebody else that's visually impaired talking about it, they're 9 times out of 10 not gonna look like me. 10 times out of 10 not gonna look like me. And I feel like it's because white people have been taught and supported in sharing their truth and being very forward with whatever it is that they're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I would say the Black community, honestly, at large, but I'll speak specifically for Africans, I feel like we do have something about us where when you have an aspect of you that makes you feel weak or, I don't know, less than, whatever you want to insert, whatever term you want to use there, then you tend to hide it and not talk about it, which is why it took 6 seasons before I ever really talked about the topic. Yeah, so I think that's definitely, I think that's something that a lot of Africans can relate on. Like, whatever your insecurity is, there's a probable chance that you don't talk about it so openly, given your roots and your culture and where you come from.
Especially, like you said, if it's something that you feel like you can't change or that cannot actually be changed.
Yeah.
A lot of times the response is not to share it per se. It's like, okay, try to hide it, try to buffer it, try to, like, it's overcompensate in other ways, but don't make it a thing that you just share openly. Like, oh yeah, I have this thing and it can be changed. Like, people, and that really is how you should deal with it. Maybe not so much sharing, that's a personal thing. Yeah. But like, you have to come to terms with whatever your insecurities are or your weaknesses are, right? Because if you don't come to terms with it, you're always going to be battling it. And it's an uphill battle if you're not coming to terms.
Beyond that, with an insecurity you can't change, I think, kind of like when you hear, like, when Black people are talking about their plight and what they go through, and then before you know it, you're consoling the white person who's like, I'm so sorry, I can't believe you did this to you. I think that's what it is. Like, with me, for instance, I don't want to be the person that, it's okay, like, it's fine, you can't change it, you can't give me any advice, like, and like, you just want to kind of avoid the topic.
Of course, because people don't always know how to deal with stuff like that anyway. I mean, we all deal with that. For me, I think I usually just be like, oh, damn. Like, but I try to be as normal because, I mean, whatever it is, it's usually not the end of the world. Yeah. That's where it's good to be even killed sometimes. Okay, like, damn.
I think that's where
you can tell me, like, the worst possible thing, and I'll be like, oh, damn, I'm really sorry to hear that.
So, I think we're unrelatable in that sense. In terms of, like, we're kind of well adjusted to the point where it's like our insecurities are just like, I mean, it is what it is. Whereas somebody else on this pod might be like, yeah, my insecurity is a fucking huge deal and it ruins my life. Like, I feel like there's definitely more people out there that like that than us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all just deal with it in different ways. Yeah. And, it might not ruin your life per se, but it could, like I said, insecurities can hold you back. Like, my insecurity about not fitting in, and not wanting to, like, be extra or whatever, that affects me because I know like in social settings where I might have more to say or more to give, I might hold myself back because I'm like, I don't want to put myself out there because that's an insecurity for me. I'm relaxed, right? Even at work, I see people that like, all they do is they just talk more. They're just more social. They just talk more, and it's like they're doing something. I'm like, yo, you don't do nothing. Like, and then me, I can see me as a person that like just chills by himself, doesn't get too involved. Like, no one is gonna say anything bad, but like maybe I wouldn't be the first person thought of for something positive because it's like I'm just to the side kind of.
True.
So it definitely affects me anyway. It's something that I try to work on. It's just not that easy.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, did you have anything else on this topic you want to touch on, or do you think we're good there?
No, I think we're good. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we all have insecurities. Yeah. We all have to try to deal with them and come to terms with them. And like, Faye kind of said, focus on your strengths, focus on the things that you're good at, the things that give you strength. And, just do that, because it's not, everyone has them. You can't do anything to change some of them. Some of them you can change, work on changing them, but do it in a healthy way because some of the things you think are going to fix it might not fix it. And you're just going to find yourself like chasing a dream or a goal that's not attainable because it's something that can move. I want to look beautiful. What the hell does that mean? Yeah. Like beautiful changes every year. Like back in the day, being skinny was beautiful. Now being thick, I'm sure there was a time being fat. It's like it's going to change. Yeah. So you have to have your internal like strength and confidence to get through it. Yeah. Indeed.
All right. So I like why that's ending, and now I think we can go into again one of our tried and trues, our section of the podcast where we talk about our favorite music right now. So this is our tunes of the week. Do you want me to start?
You should start. I feel like I started everything today. I'm tired of starting.
Fine.
That's another insecurity. I don't always want to be first.
Although I introduced everything. And I introduced every segment.
Yeah. But you told me, I introduced it, then you start. You start this one. What's your tune of the week?
I will start. So I have kind of a lot to discuss, guys, because we have had a long break. Okay, so I want to like give you a little bit of an array, okay, a little platter of tunes. Okay,
Faye is just not good at following directions.
Yeah, but it's my
like,
podcast.
Faye, which one do you like?
Along with yours, but it's my podcast.
Like,
it's our podcast, so we can do what we want.
Yeah. Okay,
stop it.
Go ahead.
And this is very customary of me, so just allow. Okay. So basically I'll narrow it down to 2 albums I really fuck with. One on the more pop side, which is Billie Eilish's new album, Happier Than Ever. Really, really good project. I might like her first project slightly more, but this one I think has really, really, really good, strong songs that like I can find a song for everybody that they will like, Okay.
Interesting.
And her voice is just angelic and beautiful as always.
Is it now?
Yeah. Okay. And then on the hip hop side, my favorite is actually Isaiah Rashad. To many's surprise, maybe, because Drake is my favorite artist of all time, and he released a hip hop album, obviously. Certified Lover Boy, which that's actually funny, but that's a conversation for another day. It's called Certified Lover Boy, but the name is kind of like a or a misnomer. Like I really do think it's not much of a lover boy album, but anyway,
I see what you're trying to
still
say.
Good album. Love that album. But Isaiah Rashad's was my favorite hip hop album that came out during our little hiatus. So good. The House is Burning, amazing songs on there. If you haven't listened to it,
I haven't.
You haven't. You should. So yeah, and then one last little honorable mention on the like Afro beats ish side is Tiwa Savage's song with Brandy, Somebody's son. Right. Really, really good song. It's a jam, guys. So yeah, that's my platter.
Okay,
your turn.
Thank you so much for that. I thought it was supposed to be one song. I'm just like, we said one song.
Sorry.
Faye's like, I'm gonna give you 2 albums.
Not
and a
sorry,
song.
actually.
I'm like, I don't know what the tune of the week is, but okay, fine.
You can play somebody's song.
No, I think I have one song for you guys. It's a song by Manny Wells. Are you familiar?
No.
Manny Wells. He's actually from the DMV area, I believe.
Oh, cool.
He's not super big yet, but he's on his way. He has a song with Thames. It's called Peace.
Nice.
It's a very, very good song.
I love Thames.
Yeah,
so
definitely check it out. He's from the DMV, so he's like, up and coming. Hopefully he comes very soon. But he's He's doing. I mean, I don't listen to that much of his music. I just kind of knew of him. But this song is really, really good.
Speaking of music and the DMV, a few Afrobeats artists came through this month. This past month, September. So I had the pleasure of going to 2 of the concerts. You went to one. So we both went to WizKid, guys. Those were hotly sought after tickets. And luckily for us, we were able to go. It was really, really great. I was closer to the front, which made my experience very rowdy, to say the least. Like, guys, people were trying to pull my hair out of my head. So that was a lot, but it was really fun. And then I also got to see Omale. What did you think about WizKid, though?
I thought it was a good show. It wasn't everything I thought it would be. I think I left a little bit disappointed.
Why?
But
didn't
not
play
like
enough songs?
I feel like he didn't play enough songs. I feel like he didn't play enough, like, I don't know. It's just something about the show. It's hard for me to describe because when I try to think of the songs that he didn't play, I'm like, he played like the big songs. He played all the
big ones, yeah.
But
and Wale came out. And guys, I have like a little piece of my heart for Wale.
Okay, so I really felt like he could have played some other songs. Like, I feel like he just really went with the popular, like...
Yeah, but...
But, like, you have to...
He had like an hour and a half set.
You have to do, like, to me, anyway, in my opinion... Of course, you have to do the really big ones, the really popular ones. You have to do Essence. Like, you can't miss those. But you also have to do some songs that's like, yo, for people that haven't seen you before, people that have been following you, like, just like, you have to do some deep cuts. Like,
I feel like
you don't have to do a bunch. You don't have to do... No,
that was as deep as it got for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. That's not that deep.
Like,
yeah.
So you have to find some songs that are just like, yo, do you know this song? That people can look around and be like, you don't know this song, ha ha ha. But he didn't really do that a lot, which is what I was hoping he would do.
was trying to embarrass people.
Because when I went to Burna Boy did that.
He did.
He played songs. He played like, there was like a 10-minute span where he played music that people were literally just looking at. Burna Boy was like, I'm sorry guys, I have to play this. Like, this is my song. But my point in
saying he had an hour and a half set is that an hour and a half is actually pretty decently long.
He played, I mean, it was long enough. And he's
played as many songs as he could squeeze into that hour and a half. So I'm like, I feel like for him to get everybody happy and have those songs you're talking about, he would have had to skimp out on songs that everybody was expecting. So it would have been like somebody else would have been unhappy. Like where you would have been happy, somebody else would have been unhappy. But to your point, I will say, like, Omale, because he's such a newer artist, he was able to do like a wide array of his music. And overall, I would say I kind of enjoyed that concert a tad bit more, but not really because of the artist. Like, obviously, I prefer WizKid, but more because just the concert experience as a whole was a little bit better. Like,